Hello, it's Terry from Danu's Irish Herb Garden, and today I'd just like to share with you a secret recipe, an old traditional recipe to help prevent potato blight. So this is a recipe that you can use as a spray to prevent the blight affecting your potatoes. And the secret ingredient is this plant here, which is horsetail. And you can see it's kind of like a little tree. It looks a bit like a tree, a pine tree of some kind. It's got lots of little branches. And if you look at it close up, it has little notches. So it's kind of a jointed, it's like a bamboo kind of a plant. It's got a hollow stem with these notches and these little tendrils or little branches come off it. It grows everywhere. It grows on all kinds of waste ground. It grows on damp ground. You've probably got a little patch of it somewhere, or you would have seen it, because it is pretty prolific. And it's very prolific here in this wet lower area of my garden. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to collect this and make a very strong tea, and that's what I'm going to use for my spray. So the horsetail is in the pan. I'm going to pour on the boiling water and make a tea, just as you would make a tea with any plant material. And whereas normally we might leave the tea infusing or brewing for a couple of minutes, I'm going to leave this overnight. I'm going to cover it with a lid and just let that infuse and become a very, very strong tea. And so we'll get back to that tomorrow. This is the horsetail tea. It's been brewed and it's been sat here on the countertop infusing for a day and a half. Longer than intended, just because it was so wet, the weather was so wet. So this is now ready to be poured into the spray. So this is the spray down here, and I've put a sieve on the top because I don't want any particles of the horsetail to go into the spray chamber, because I don't want any blocks anywhere, because these things are so fiddly and awkward. Oops. So anyway, you can see the horsetail there now, after it's been infusing. I probably, if I was to do this again, I would chop it up much more finely. So I'm just going to put the top on the spray thingy-majig now. So here are the potatoes. They're actually looking pretty good. There are some little bits of discoloration here and there, but I think that was more frost burn, because the temperatures plummeted and we did have a couple of nights with quite low temperatures. We rarely ever get frost here, but it is possible that it is frost burn. I don't think it's blight anyway, but I'm just going to spray all of the spuds with this horsetail mixture. It's the first time I've ever done this, so I hope I'm doing it right. I got this spray gadget thing from the supermarket. It's called a timber spray, so I presume it's for spraying timber with preservatives of some kind. So I'm just adapting it to this use because it's just a spray. Otherwise, you could just use a bottle and make your horsetail tea and mist, put a mister thing on it. Just a spray bottle of some kind. And that's it really. I'm doing this now because we've had a lot of high pressure and fantastic weather. Then the weather got very cold. As I say, this looks like frost burn of some kind. And now it's very damp, which is great for fungal spores to, great opportunity for fungal spores to get going on a plant. And while it's overcast and damp today, tomorrow is going to be warm and sunny again. So it seems to be the perfect time. And of course, there were blight warnings on the weather reports on TV, which we always get in Ireland. Very important because of our history, because of course the so-called Irish famine was not really a famine at all, as more food was leaving the country than was coming in at the time. It was simply that the potatoes were affected by a never before seen blight that decimated the potato crop of the poor tenants, and that was their food supply gone. Consequently, about 1 million or more people died, and over 1 million had to emigrate. And the population has never recovered. We've still never reached the 8+ million that we had back in the late 1840s. I hope that this little demonstration, it's hardly rocket science, but you know, it's great to know that there's nothing in nature that can't be solved using nature. So there's a horsetail plant growing. There it is. And this is the little friend that is going to combat the blight on the potatoes. And I have this, there's another one. That's an older one and one behind it. So I have a ton of horsetail in the garden this year. It's gone absolutely berserk for some reason. I mean, it's always here, and I like weeds. And I don't like to just rip things out, and I certainly never use any form of poison whatsoever. But I don't even like to rip things out because, you know, they have their life to lead as well. And so I tolerate everything, and I only take things out when I need the space. So maybe that's the wrong thing to do, because now I am over challenged really with horsetail everywhere. But I don't mind it because it's a very beneficial herb. Apart from helping with possible potato blight, it's full of silica, it's full of zinc, it's full of lots of other minerals that are brought up to the surface, up through its very, very long roots. It has very long roots. So it's beneficial just to be there anyway, replenishing the soil with minerals. It's also good for people. It's great for the urinary system. And it's good for building up teeth enamel and for helping with hair, skin and nails. But that's more information for another day. But, you know, people have been taught or conditioned to seeing certain plants as unacceptable as weeds, and they're not taught of all the benefits. Every plant has a benefit. And we just have to find out what the benefit is so that we can respect the plant and appreciate it for what it does and what it is. And that's why there's another horsetail. See, I have lots of them. I have lots of grass growing here. I'm terrible for weeding. So you'll have to excuse, if you're one of those people who likes everything to be pristine and tidy, you'll have to excuse. I will pull all this grass out as I get time, but you know, life's too busy, really. Too much to be doing and enjoying than pulling out grass and weeds, especially when the weeds can be beneficial. Obviously, I think people who say pull out all the weeds and they worry about them taking nourishment from whatever it is that they've planted, I think they maybe should look to nourishing the soil a little bit more. Because if you nourish the soil, things will grow anyway, and nature doesn't really allow for voids. But maybe that's just a lazy excuse, I don't know. I just leave things really. And I can't say I've ever seen anything suffer because there's a bit of grass or so-called weed growing next to it. And you know, I used to really detest the creeping buttercup And then I realised one day, I just looked at it, I looked at the way the roots spread, and I realised it's actually holding soil in place. It's actually doing a really important job. So I just let it get on with it, with its little life. And I just get rid of it when I need to. So there, they've all had a bit of a spray now, and hopefully if the blight does come, they'll be okay. So there we are. Very easy. Just make a tea of the horsetail. There it is. Put it into a bottle with a mister on it, you know, one of those spray misters. Or I've invested in this timber spray thing, which gives me 5 litres if I needed. I don't need 5 litres for this job. But here it is, look. It's one of those pressure things, so I'm supposed to pump it up. It's got a nice little carrying handle, which makes it easy to bring around with me. There now, I've got a bit more of a spray pressure there going. See, it's very handy. So wishing you no blight, wishing you to be free from blight. Also, let me not forget, tomatoes are in the same family. So if you see any signs of blight on your tomatoes, you can use this on the tomatoes as well. And you can also use horsetail tea like this to protect roses from rust. So you see how beneficial it is. You see how we need horsetail. It has a function. It's one of the oldest plants on the planet. It's going back right to dinosaur times when it was... Okay, so chickens are suspected to have once been Tyrannosaurus rex. And over the multi-millions of thousands of years, or however long it's been, they've become much, much smaller and easy to handle. And likewise, the horsetail was once as tall as a tree. It actually lived in a forest of horsetail. So it's interesting to see that the provenance of horsetail is literally going back to the very beginnings of the plant people on the planet. So I hope this video was of some help and inspiration to you. And if you don't grow potatoes or tomatoes and you don't need to use it in this way, still be mindful that it is a very beneficial, helpful spirit of a plant, and it's not just a weed. It's not just something to be persecuted and ripped out and killed. You know, show it some respect. Use it for your health. Okay. So, thank you for watching. This is Terry at Danu's Irish Herb Garden. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye for now.